The Dream Demon gets a new designer series. Here's your look at the Mezco toys. This is the MDS, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger, based on A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors, is here to invade the Mezco Designer series and your dreams too. Freddy features a sinister smirk and is presented in his signature striped sweater. The Dream Demon comes complete with his infamous razor glove and a removable fedora. The MDS Freddy Krueger figure stands approximately 6 inches tall and features 12 points of articulation. So before we extensively get into a review of Freddy Krueger here, the first thing we're going to do is measure off to the very top of his head. Did you really think I was stopping with Freddy Krueger reviews on this channel? Pfft, you must have been dreaming. I'm here all day, by the way, guys. I'm here all day. Don't forget to tip your waitress. According to the Ultra Measure 5000, of course, the tool of the trade for me at least, I can tell you that the figure stands 7.2 inches in height. Somebody's yelling at the back of the crowd. Yes, go ahead, sir. Yes? No, you will have to speak up. Even though you're loud, I can't quite clearly make out what you're saying. No, you're still mumbling. Somebody's translating. Somebody's translating. Yeah? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Somebody has asked me in the back of the crowd, somebody yelling and just not very clearly speaking the individual words, has asked me, well, what if you want to display the figure without the fedora? You can do that, by the way. You can. I'm just deciding to display the figure measurement-wise with the fedora. That would be the highest point on the figure, and just you would have to imagine from there, if you are to take the fedora off, you're simply just subtracting the little bit of fedora off the head, off the top. Can we resume? Translator says yes. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. 7.2 inches in height is the MDS Freddy Krueger, and we're going to quickly switch that over to centimeters. Almost 18.5, 18.3 centimeters tall. That's strange. The mob seems more restless than ever. We'll proceed with the rest of this review, and yes, I did mention that you can remove the fedora. We can go ahead and take that off right now. The fedora is done quite nicely here with little imperfections to the fabric, though this is not a fabric fedora. It's been done in rather a dense plastic. Very surprised the fact I couldn't squeeze this like a dog toy. But you can see that there's these little pock marks all done in the hat. And it looks like there's 2 colors of brown being utilized here. The more primary wood-colored brown, and then a slightly more darker shade, almost borderlining black, that's been painted over top of that. Really does accent some of those imperfections to the fabric. And even though this isn't real fabric, it does do a good enough service for at least the hat clientele that I think that's a suitable little fedora that you can plunk on top of Freddy's noggin, which we'll do in a second. Put that right there, but we will first extensively look at Freddy Krueger. As extensive as you would expect on this channel, more than happy to provide that service for you. I must say, from a standpoint of sculpting, Mezco Toys really certainly has utilized the most out of their real estate spacing. They've put a lot of care and detail to even places that Fedora would normally have covered. Fedora territory, if you will, this section right here, just gets as much detail onto the top as the rest of Freddy's quite burnt face. The face is a two-toned face, kind of a peach color, and then mixed in with that is the burnt open sores of Freddy's flesh. This, of course, was inspired initially by a pizza, and then I guess these would be the pepperoni pieces and the cheese draped across that. It's funny where designers actually come up with their ideas. Teeth, must admit also as well, there's a fair bit of care that's been put into also his teeth. It's got a little bit of almost red color in there, sprinkled in with some gray, and even like the outlining of black makes each tooth as important as the tooth next to it. We will not single out one individual tooth. All you teeth are just as important as the tooth next to you. But really nicely done overall on the sculpting of the face. The eyes come across even more of a teal color in the camera studio here than it does actually in person. The eyes are really nicely done. There's no bit of reflection on it. I guess it really doesn't necessarily need reflection. It does have the pupil, and it does have the outlining of the iris. That's good enough for me. That's good enough for me. I don't need anything more than that. I'm perplexed as to why there's this noticeable seam line right here. I mean, I don't even have to point it out. I can point it with my eyes, although you're not going to be seeing my eyes pointing at it, but you know exactly where I'm focusing my efforts. It's right here. Oh, I use my finger again. I don't know why specifically it's there. I can't think it's because they're deciding somewhere along the lines that they're going to reuse another head, and that's going to go over top of this. I'm wondering if it's just simply the construction of it. Maybe it was easier to put it over top of the ball joint of the neck and then simply put the head on top of that. I'm not really quite certain, but I guess because he's scarred anyways, you can kind of chalk it up that it kind of goes with those creases and with those burnt sections of flesh. Yeah, it's noticeable. But I ask you, is it noticeable only because I drew your attention to it? Members of the mob are nodding their head yes. Congratulations. Okay, that's good. As for the sweater, now this is Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, so of course now he's got the inclusion of the stripes in his sleeves. These would be omitted if this was Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1. Freddy, you all know that stuff by now. You guys are very smart when it comes to horror films. I really do like the sweater, must admit. They're going darker here with the red and the green. A little darker than perhaps it was in the film, and that's perfectly fine for me. The sweater, if you will, doesn't have any section that does open up, revealing the soles or anything like that, but that's okay. That's okay. You don't necessarily need that, especially specifically for this Freddy. I don't need anything other than really a nice tailored sweater. Tailored, done, yes, in plastic, but I like the little holes and rip marks and stuff like that at the bottom of the sweater here, around the sections of his sleeves, and most definitely around the collar. It's quite frayed, it's quite mangled as you would expect Freddy Krueger's sweater to have. Then you get down to his pants, similar in pock marks, these little indentations in it as the fedora. It's kind of weird. It looks like a twill pant, and yet it's probably not that at all. Then, of course, you get down to the boots, the shoes, and even have sculpted the undersoles. Rest assured, the figure does stand perfectly fine. I don't need necessarily that there need to be holes on the undersides of his feet. This Freddy stands A-OK. Fonzie cool. Then, of course, you get Freddy's glove, done right there, in a lighter caramel color brown, and then a darker brown on the plates, as well as the finger guards, right all the way down to the actual blades. The blades are of a thinner plastic, so we'll be a little bit careful of that. And you can see that they've even sculpted the opening of the glove where you see the palm and at least one of the fingers. The other fingers kind of just get suggested that those would be showing flesh. It's really only the first finger that actually gets afforded the flesh. The rest of it is just slots and little slits. Really nicely done on the glove, though. This figure has a fair bit of articulation, surprisingly, of, when you look at a figure like this, you almost would even expect just to have swivel in the arms and maybe articulation in the head. But I can tell you there's a lot more going on than just that. Let's have a look at it, a run-through, if you will. The head rotates all the way around via a ball joint. It hinges up and down, and it can also rock back and forth, giving you a nice creepy look for Freddy Krueger. As for the arms, quite surprised to see that the arms not only swivel all the way around, but they also hinge outward. So if you want, you can bring Freddy's arms out. And even though this isn't necessarily this sequel, you can imagine that Freddy Krueger is saying, "You are all my children now." I know, it's not that movie. So the arms do hinge outward as well. A noticeable hinge, but you're really not going to see it when it's all said and done. The hands also rotate all the way around and hinge back and forth. This is the same also for this glove as well. Rotate all the way around and hinge back and forth. And a nice surprise is the fact that they've swiveled the forearms. There's a cut right there that's hidden actually around the outer edge of the one striped green stripe here. They've concealed it well enough that you don't even see it. And when you rotate the arms, I mean, being that standard swivel, you would just think to yourself, well, swivel, you're really not going to be getting much out of that. Oh, but you are. Oh, but you are. You're going to swivel that like this, and then just compensate it by swiveling the hand around, and instantly, you've got Freddy Krueger as if you would have had a bend in the elbow. Quite ingenious the way that they did that. You can also pull that same look off by having Freddy's hand like this. Yeah, that's a pretty cool looking look for this particular killer. He does also have a ball joint in the torso, so you can rotate all that all the way around. And he does also have articulation in his feet. I don't think necessarily you need articulation in Freddy's feet, but they've given it to you nonetheless, whether you like it or not. And we'll top everything off with his Fedora. Really, again, a nice looking figure. These MDS figures are really quite like smaller scale ones, more so than the larger scale. The smaller scale definitely get a you get much more real estate space, talking a little bit about that again, where you can put a lot more of these on a shelf. I don't think we've actually gotten a Jason Voorhees, now that I'm thinking about it, of course, with the legal tie-ups with that particular film franchise. I don't think we have gotten a Jason, nor will we be getting Jason anytime soon. Freddy, though, does look quite good. I'd love to see more MDS versions of Freddy Krueger. Certainly there's a lot of films to cover off, and I'd be more than happy to ride that train through as Mezco continues to release MDS versions of the various different Freddys from the various different Nightmare on Elm Street films. Probably a lot of the MDS figures that you recognize here on this channel are more so usually tied up to Child's Play. Over the years, Mezco Toys has really saturated the market in a good way with various different MDS renditions of the Chuckster. It's nice that Freddy gets a little bit of that opportunity by getting an MDS version release for himself. And I think also there was releases of a Pinhead, an MDS figure that I still have not yet picked up but would love to add to my collection. I really like this Freddy Krueger. It's super deformed and stylized and sort of all the things and traits that you would expect with an MDS release, and that's all the more reasoning why I really like figures like this. It breaks up the market, and a market I mentioned so frequently in the previous reviews, saturated by one company. That company that sort of just pops up, if you will. And this is a nice change of pace. Granted, this figure is a little bit more expensive than those traditional other figures that we talked about and hinted at, but I think the value goes into the fact that you're getting a stylized version of Freddy Krueger that's posable as well. It's not simply just his head and swivel in his arms. Yes indeed, yes indeed, yes indeed. I'd love to see more MDS versions of Freddy Krueger. There's different looks, of course, that he's had over the films, and I'd love to see Mezco continue to release MDS versions of Freddy Krueger. Maybe, oh maybe, down the road, as the Friday the 13th franchise eventually frees itself up in the courts, maybe we'll also get ourselves some more releases of Jason Voorhees in this same similar treatment. If you manage to pick up this one for yourself, let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of the Mezco Toys MDS Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. I guess it really could be any Freddy if you wanted to. It doesn't specifically have to be from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. Even though Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1, he wouldn't have these stripes in the sleeves. I know you guys already know that. You guys are all very smart. Either way, hit that subscribe button down below. Members of the mob, swing next door to that bell notification and make sure you turn that on. So when future videos are coming onto this channel, you won't be the person that's missing out. Don't be the person that misses out. That is pretty embarrassing. I, at one point, was the person that was missing out on something. And I didn't realize that there was a virtual bell notification I just had to hit, and life would get so much simpler. I should have had a V8. Either way, though, guys, stay tuned because there's going to be a whole lot of Mezco reviews coming soon to this channel. So, again, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, and keep your peepers peeled for future videos coming onto this channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.